What's up, everyone? Captain of the Day's Pirates here, Kane. Thanks for tuning in for another video. First real gameplay of '08. This list, I did run some games on the sim just the other day because I just now have sim access. Um, and I kind of landed on this for my first rendition of '08. And the deck had a pretty good showing overall. Obviously, we'll run through the games. But from the list perspective, kind of just a few tweaks or kind of just current state, to talk about decisions from kind of a straw hat package standpoint. Obviously, I'm kind of locked into that Nami with the Jambé and kind of these counters. The Jet Gatling at two, Jambé at two, and I'm at three Radical Beams right now. Basically, I kind of flexed that other one into the slow beam sword because this can create a different two for one. I mentioned this card is a two cost 2K counter that can rest any card that your opponent, or any character your opponent has. So blockers, geckos, doesn't matter. You can tap those down. You've seen them in some of the other gameplays. We have slightly changed our ramp package here. I did go up to my fourth Zoro Juro. Finally, just kind of forfeiting on the fact that the 1K counters and these being our best ramp options, I just want to enact that as consistently as absolutely possible. And then It's to Die For is kind of flexed in as my additional ramper just to have one more option. It's not searchable and it doesn't have counter, so I don't know. It's similar to kind of previous conversations we've had about ramp. I don't want to top deck two of these, or it becomes a dead card pretty quickly. So want to be kind of wary of that as far as that goes. I might go to a second one. It can make for some very explosive plays. And I know this is a new one for '08. It's a main three cost event that gets you one active Don no matter what. And then if your opponent has a 6,000 power or greater, you get an additional active Don. So I do think this flexes really well into it. I think I'm going to keep this around, but we'll see. Maybe I end up moving my last Zoro into that second It's to Die For at some point. But realistically, again, I just would rather have the body and the 1K counter in a lot of ways. So I just think our third ramp option is so lackluster that I'm fine with staying at 9 ramp options there. For my blockers, I know a lot of people. I even got a comment on the getting started video to go back up on queens, and I understand what it's for. It's just still a concept of it not being a gameplay, and it's more of a stalling move in a deck that doesn't really want to stall. So that's why I do have my two laws. So I do have an additional blocker. This blocker is also playable alongside Eustace Captain Kidd in the late game, so that's worth noting for with 10 Don between the two because of the -1 effect in our leader. And it's also just a proactive move against some of the decks that can get sticky, like Nami and Luffy. In some blue decks, we should beat them, relatively speaking. But when we don't beat them, it's because they have an overabundance of resources and we aren't able to get through it. So this law can be absolutely devastating to quite a few matchups. At the end of the day, it's still just a blocker if you need it, or 1K counter if you don't. I know that's the case that everyone says about Queen. Well, if you don't need to play it, then it's a 1K counter. But again, I've just lost too many games where I've played two and or more queens, like played them onto the field because that was the cards in my hand and the only actions I could take. And with that being the case, I just don't want to be in that position very often. So I'm comfortable on two here. Again, I still think it's going to go away in '09, but that's a separate conversation. My 2K package here, I did change my Otamas back to Franasoke's. Just having a little bit of whiffing, and on the sim, I was having a few times where I'd play a Nami, and I really do want a 2K, but I couldn't take the Otama. And it happened just a few times, but enough for me to say, like, I'm fine with this just being a Straw Hat 2K until we get Uso Hachis and an ST. So I'll do a video about kind of the STs and maybe some of the specific '08 cards too, but um, just kind of going through my list as it is today. So the 7 2Ks, all Straw Hat searchable is huge. Down to 2 Zoros, just because it is kind of a filler in our curve, and it is a 1K counter that we will just get rid of a lot of the time as well. So I'm fine with these being at 2 and kind of, leaning into our top end. Also, just kind of to that end, Robin, we do still have in the deck. Rebecca's still huge. Chopper still comes up all the time. Mr. 2 comes up. Rosinante comes up. I think I popped a Shiki with it in today as well. So she's still just massive. I really like having that card in here as a two of again, and it's a straw hat, searchable 1K when you don't need it otherwise. Um, I think that flex can be absolutely devastating. And then our threat package uses Captain Kidd and Newgate. Those have been pretty locked in. I did go down one dragon, and really this Linlin should be a Rayleigh. It will be a Rayleigh in the next video because I got my third Rayleigh now. But I didn't have my third Rayleigh yet, so I just kept it in there to see if it came up. It didn't really come up. I want to test this card some more. I'm going to take it to the sim some more. But in the time that I've had it in my deck in the sim and some of the lists I've posted in Discord, just haven't really loved it when it was in my hand. I think there is a meta and a matchup world where this is valid and good for us. But I think right now, especially if people are going to be playing really aggressive strategies, it just doesn't offer us quite enough. And then, sorry, I keep zooming in here. My new mouse has a really touchy wheel here. And then my three gear fives, love them. Went back into three. You'll see in some of my games, I have an upside down gear five inside my sleeve. I made sure it was always the right way in my deck, so it's not like a marked card or anything. But I was personally marking it so I could think about Kaido and Lunlin just a little bit, because I don't think that card's really going to be good, and I think there is going to be times where I would just rather have a gear five like across the board. Um, but I wanted to give it a shot, so I did. I did keep it upside down, just kind of think about it a little bit. I don't think Kaido Linlin's really a great meta call, even though I really want to dumpster and a no with it. But this is my current list. Feeling pretty good about it. I had Fire Fist in briefly to support Rayleigh, but it just felt a little too bricky. So at that time I was off the Beam Sword and I didn't have this to die for either. Basically, these two were Fire Fists in that testing round. And this flexibility is just better. Then from here, we can go into our gameplay. So I know most of my games so far have been our league. So this is our 1 week off between leagues. Usually the way this the store Nerd Rage does their league is the week of pre-releases. Or the league ends the week before pre-release starts, and then the league starts not the Tuesday after the new set, but the following Tuesday. So it kind of gives everyone about 2-3 weeks, if you count pre-release, to get the cards they might want for their O8 meta and decks. But without further ado, let's jump into that gameplay and get rolling here. I got everything sped up and 4 matches to roll through here. So I guess real quick, I meant to mention earlier in the video, but oh well. 500 subs is the goal. 500 subs will end up being a giveaway. So if you're watching this and you're enjoying the games, you're enjoying the content, please do subscribe. Honestly, I am trying to get monetized on here, even though that's not necessarily the only thing that I'm getting out of here. I really do enjoy doing this. That is the goal, if I can be, candid with y'all. So 500 subs by the end of the year is kind of what I'm looking for. And if we hit that, I'll be doing a giveaway with that, likely with some O9 stuff or maybe some other spice thrown in there a little bit. We'll see, kind of exactly when that number firms up. But without further ado, I got Boston, my dude here's first round. He just got back from nationals. He was planning on playing Kalgara tonight, but he forgot Kalgara at home. So we got Purple Kaido versus RP Luffy round one here. Mulliganed, and I am going first. No Nami turn one.
Yeah, I'm feeling risky with it. I'm just gonna play a little cheeky. Okay. A little cheeky in here. 6,000. Take that. No trade.
Top deck the Zoro Juro. You love to see that. Gear 5, like I said, that's the upside down one, so that would have been a Kaido and Linlin in my hand.
I think. Yeah, I'm feeling bloody. We're just gonna do a little.
No stage for Kaido is pretty good here. You might not be too familiar with this deck, but this Kaido leader is a 5K purple leader. That then oh look, ramp out of life with that purple event too. It's pretty nice. But he has a 3-cost stage that every turn he rested to get a Don. That usually is the play he wants to be making turn 2. But also this leader is a 5K leader that says activate main, Don -7, your opponent trashes one of their life. So especially this set with Black Maria, I think he has 4 Black Maria on the list. That really fortifies this strategy in this list. At the end of the day, though, he did want to be playing Kalgara tonight. It's a little unfortunate. Here I'm very heavily debating if I even want to use my queen effect or not. Because I'm kind of thinking about my curve, whether it's going to knock me off being able to ramp. And I do end up doing it to cycle through a little bit more. And then we get rid of our gear 5 because we have two gear 5s now. So it ends up cycling a little bit more counter into our hand and getting us a little deeper. But I'm always very hesitant to kind of take that early Don minus play because we want to be ramping ahead. If I recall correctly, I think I actually ended up making the call to do that because I wanted to. I decided I was going to block for it, or I was thinking I'd probably block for it and then counter that way. But I also am thinking here, like, how could I get punished for this line? Like, is that a mistake? But no, I think that was correct, and I think it ended up being pretty good. He's got a beautiful SP queen. I'm probably gonna end up getting with one or two in the deck, even though I want to cut it because I am a collector of SPs now, so I want at least one of all of them. But you guys see my 3 and approaching 4 SP Namis in the deck. I would love to use SP Queen for this set, but we'll see. I'll end up getting one at least for the collection, but we'll see. Activate lead. We're up to 9. I think this ends up being a Rayleigh play, but I'm debating the sequencing here of if I want to attach it down, like if he might block something if I go otherwise. So let's just do that first.
It's okay, you're likely to get it anyways.
Then we'll go 5, get active.
Right on. I'll give you a queen here for 1k.
He had counter out with queen there.
And this one I will block.
Give him 7. He blocks there. I think I was saying because I had.
Top deck save me.
Oh, I was just saying that I probably should have just defaulted to KOing the queen in case he didn't block with it, but it didn't really matter in this case. So that sequence is very strong. Or got 1K out of him and got rid of 2 blockers off board.
First, for one, we're gonna claim the One Piece. Search top 5 for Animal Kingdom or Big Mom Pirates type cards.
This purple searcher for Animal Kingdom Orb, Big Moms. I don't know. I wonder if there's any Big Moms, Big Mom pirates in the deck. But obviously, Animal Kingdom is kind of the backbone of the deck. He's thinking through here whether or not he can Sanji or how he wants to kind of sequence.
Do for 3, we're gonna play Sanji, and then for another 3.
Because I ramped ahead, he can now Sanji. He plays Black Maria.
7. We're gonna go ahead and Don minus all 7 to trash your top.
He does Don minus all of his Don to trash my Newgate from life, and then Black Maria right back up to 5. So even if with only 7 and no Onigashima or the stage or like Kid or pudding effects, you can just Black Maria to get back to 7 every turn, no matter what, which can be quite powerful.
We're gonna take Onigashima finally. And then some of the rest.
I think after the game he said Onigashima was his only option at that point. Like this late in the game, he doesn't want to be resting 3 Don to get that online. I don't think he will be. So I do think he ended up saying like, yeah, it was just the only option. So I would have grabbed counter or whatever if I could. But so again, if this gear 5 is a Kaido and Linlin, well, in this matchup it may have been fine, respectfully to Purple Kaido. But maybe I probably could have gotten away with just slamming Kaido and Linlin there. But this actually just wins immediately, so it is still a little bit better than I guess chancing it because I guess. I don't know. He could make some plays to like trash my life and then swing, or I don't know. I think I'm probably pretty safe specifically here either way. But yeah, and then Cal messed thing up there. Oh yeah, he was just bricked up absolutely. So it was pretty kind of grindy for him. We did run it back with the time that we had, and he was basically in a position to win when we ran out of time. We didn't necessarily have like a guaranteed line that he was going to win, but he was in pretty good shape because he did get the stage on curve going first, and then he also got a Black Maria pretty early, so he was able to activate leader effect like twice by like turn 6 or so, I think. So yeah, he was shaping up some much better with the stage in game 2, but obviously it only really mattered for the 1. So 1-0. We got Reiju, ET here. Starting off with a turn one stage, you hate to see it. I wish there was more stage removal. The fact there is a that one spell that removes stages in red, I kind of want to run it as a tech if Reiju gets really big, or if there's a world where like ST14 Luffy and Reiju are both like very prevalent in the meta, that event that's a two cost KO of 3K and a stage that's one cost or less might be something. I don't think I'm quite on it yet, but I'm gonna turn this volume down just a little bit more. I was debating if I should hold that it's to die for a turn to get online with Ikaji. But I was just didn't really want to do nothing but swing for 9K this turn. And if he doesn't play the full Ikaji combo, which I think he does have to do, it could kind of punish me quite a bit more. But in this particular instance, I think swinging a little bit bigger and then uh and then going for that just a little bit later may have been a little better. But so now I go here, and if we went to five, right, one, two, what are we on now? We're on seven now because we went. Oh, he went second. Yeah, he did go second. I went first, ramped one. Oh, the Jet Gatling trigger. I'm like, this is not mathing to me. Sorry. And then I swing big into this Ikiji, and he protects it. I'm like, oh no, I may have flubbed. I mean, I guess we still did get four cards out of his hand because he did have to go. He did go three 1Ks and a 2K. Um, so that made it feel a little better. But when I thought he went 2K, 2K, 1K to protect that, I was a little bit more nervous. And I did just kind of an awkward hand here. You see, I have a Jet Gatling, I have a 1K, and two Radical Beams. So it's like, even this 2K counter, do I want to take a 7? Maybe I take the 7 just to see another card at this point, but I have plays next turn. So I just took the chance to get the Radical to protect that life. Um, we'll have to kind of think about whether that could have been a little bit handled a little bit differently, but and now he Black Marias to catch back up to me on Don, and I am not feeling great about this game. I'm not gonna lie to you. So now I'm at 10. I think we end up slamming the Rayleigh. We -3 the EKG, -2, and then KO the Black Maria. So that means Reiju has to invest 3 Don to swing into me, and even EKG has to swing in with some Don too. There again, with him being neutered, I swung into EKG because he was higher on Don than usual. But realistically, maybe could have made a call to just pressure life a bit harder. But I don't know if that would have necessarily been better per se, but it's definitely something to think about now that I'm kind of looking back on it. I'm always very hesitant to swing into those bigger bodies, like when I swung into EKG 7K earlier, because obviously it's like kind of buffing their leader. They only had to counter out a 7K instead of a 5K leader. And when they successfully do that, it feels particularly worse, obviously. But I wasn't this last turn, the previous turn, going to swing a full 11K at his leader. He just takes that life and moves on and keeps all that counter. So I think it was kind of a tough decision I made him make, I guess. And now this turn later, I did remove that EKG to kind of swing back a little bit of board dominance. This is still a matchup, though, where realistically we want to play Kid into Newgate. Kid into Newgate makes this matchup, I don't know, I'm not going to say like an easy win or a free win. This deck's still very aggressive and tough, but when you're able to establish that and make them pressure with Don every time, um, it's a much harder for them to really pressure you down. So now I'm here again. I don't have any 2Ks, so I can give them Do I even have a 1K? I have two 1Ks. But I don't want to give him that Robin 1K because I want to get rid of the Tony Chopper. So now he swings 7 with the leader, and I give him the Law and a Robin because I finally had to. And then, yeah, Reiju's still 3. So he doesn't play that, and then he does play the zombie. And I'm hurting. I wonder if it maybe wasn't even worthwhile to kill the Black Marine. Nah, I'm standing by that. Now here I'm debating, do I play a queen or do I just play a dragon and press more aggressively? At this point, I'm kind of weighing my options of how effectively can I pressure him. Um, Maybe I should have just started swinging face here and pressuring harder. See, he counters out of that. Whereas if that's 9 or 8 into life, hmm, if he takes that one, I draw 2 and trash either a Newgate or a Dragon. Go for the Dragon. So I am kind of feeling on the back foot here. And maybe in this like this kind of matchup, maybe it is just kind of a fool's errand to start trying to play defensively because of how effectively, especially they like recur those EKGs and like just being in the trash doesn't really matter. And this is also one of the matchups where I wonder if Nine Mom could actually be valid. Like putting an EKG to their bottom life does two things, right? It removes it from the loop of the EKGs and the recursion, but then it does also make it so I know that their last life doesn't add any counter to their hand, which is also like maybe an underrated amount of information. But even so, it can be pretty slow. So if they have two EKGs, what am I going to do? But being able to like remove like one, if they only have one big EKG or only one big Reiju, being able to put that in life as opposed to into the trash could be better. But I don't know if I can reliably go into that, grind game like that. Here, the slow beam sword does make a very important 2-for-1 there. Got rid of the two 7K swings because he's invested Don on the Porsche first. Then we're forced to jet Gatling out of that. And here I'm trying very hard to keep my queen alive. Maybe too hard to keep my queen alive because I want to get an extra swing to try and pressure into a gear 5 because I know I'm on the back foot. And it kind of becomes like an interesting dynamic with me taking this last life. Janbei is pretty huge. So I was thinking he's going to play a chopper, but then now he plays the Yanji into the Yanji blocker, so he does still have a blocker at the end of the day. And yeah, I guess seeing that Janbei there could have really been the difference depending on how it played out. But just to kind of feign that maybe we're not going straight for the gear 5, I do swing Rayleigh first. Maybe it's still just better to swing Queen first on the off chance he didn't have a 2K. Well, he still didn't have a 2K. He had to go 2 out of there anyway, so it doesn't matter. Now we're going gear 5, lead, gear 5, 7 into life. He takes that one. Draw. Get our Don. Here. I had to hit him twice. And I obviously have to Janbei to at some point if I'm going to hit with both of these, given the fact there's a blocker. So I know the leader, which does kind of obviously show Janbei, right? So that's why he did just, take it. And then maybe swing into the EKG there to take a threat off board, which I do think is correct in that particular turn. So he has one less attacker, and all of them take down investment. But yeah, it was actually maybe didn't quite pick it up, but I basically just said, "Oh, I lose," because I just figured from here he just swings 6, 6, 6, and then 6, and then EKGs, and I'm basically just cooked. But we'll kind of see what actually does happen here. He goes straight for the EKG, and he just puts it all right on the EKG. and I very, very narrowly had just enough to get out of it.
I did that wrong. It's nice knowing you.
But yeah, we ended up talking about it afterwards. Like if he just goes 6 6 6 6 EKG, I just get actually absolutely raffle stomped there. Um,
I should have just done 7 7 7.
but that's just one of those things with lethal. Like how you go about lethal can be so important and so difference making.
Don't let your hands off.
But yeah, that one, you kind of hate to see that loss like that. But yeah, I mean, there is a big difference in how you swing tall versus swing wide when you're trying to kill someone. And you might notice a lot of the people that end up beating me or beating this deck do swing wide very effectively, and that can be kind of a factor here. So this game, we're going into round three, 2-0 into Gecko. And I'm going first here, and we will talk a little bit. The video of this does get shut a little early because I had a storage issue with my phone. I was like really confused, like how am I out of storage? I deleted a whole bunch of stuff. I should have plenty of room. I had 10 episodes of the anime downloaded on Crunchyroll from when I was on vacation still. So I had like 10 episodes of the Whole Cake Island arc that was taking up like 15 gigs of memory or something like that. So this gets cut a little bit short, but we'll talk about the end of it. And we'll this game he is just riddled with 2Ks. I'll give you a little spoiler uh, there. And I'm not so much. That's why I don't know. I did decide to go to first because everyone says to take Gecko off going first, and I still debate this internally because this exact reason. Gecko wants to go first and swing 6K into you, and I can always counter out of one with a 1K on those early turns. But sometimes I don't have the 2K when they do start this curve early of going 7, and if their curve's a little bit awkward, they do just end up going 7 with leader effect much more often. And then letting them go second does also allow them to play on curve geckos more effectively, which is also very relevant. Here I'm really wanting to find a gear 5.
This costs a pretty penny.
I only have 3.
Having Zoro for sure. And he just plays out the Hina to get a body on board. Activate leader. I guess my stand up getting a little bit bumped. I think it was a little bit better in the next round.
So I have 6 going in first. So that being the case.
The Perona here. Oh, decision to talk about. Okay. I couldn't remember after I did this last time if the Jet Gatling was already in hand. That was what I drew for turn. But with this hand, I had to get rid of a card. And it's so brutal because I have two big threats. I have a dragon and a Rayleigh, both of which are really the only two threats I see so far, and could be enough reach if I can hang on to those. Jambe maybe should have just been is probably more maybe the most defensive thing to get rid of. You don't want to bank on a Jambe play, um, but maybe that was just right. I think maybe keeping the threats and getting rid of the Jambe is better here because I don't want to get rid of my 1K or 2K because I'm about that they use my Robin to stop being hit from a 6K swing right now. Maybe it would have just been better to get rid of the Jambe and kept one open Radical Beam or kept an additional Radical Beam down the stretch. But I do to the Perona, and it's definitely not the reason I end up losing, but just kind of going through this after the fact, I think I draw my next card ends up being a Jet Gatling, and when I was thinking through it a little bit more, I'm like, oh, I should have got rid of the Jet Gatling, but no, it was my top deck, I'm pretty sure, so that wasn't valid. Yeah, there it is. now at this point, I'm checking his trash to see what he has access to between Perona and Hogback. Right now, he has neither in his trash. Um, so I'm trying to debate what I want to remove with my Rayleigh play. Um, I don't want to put a hog back into his trash because then he has gets to choose whether he wants to pick up a 2K or actually I don't think he had a Thriller Bark 2K in there until just now. But my thought was I didn't want him to be able to pick up a Gecko or if I put the Perona into his life, then he'd be able to pick that up as well. So I do end up removing the Hina because that kind of offers the least utility in his trash. Even though it is obviously an opportunity for a Rebecca play, he already had one in his trash as well. So that's why I popped that and I left the hogback low. After the fact, he mentioned that I could have swung into the hogback with my Robin or with my Namis if I wanted to, get them out of the way or, you know, uh, pressure that. I didn't do it because honestly, I didn't think about it, but I didn't remove the hogback because I wanted to not remove it. At the end of the day, that extra swing could have made a difference. So maybe just check that board a little bit harder in that scenario is just better. Again, if he's playing a hogback on this turn, actually very important to think about. He's on 8 down here. So then that makes him choose between, well, if he geckos back the hogback and just picks up the second gecko, I'm not feeling great about it either. I don't know. As because if he ends up using a hogback this turn that I gave him access to, then that means he didn't gecko. But I guess hypothetically he could gecko hogback brand new instead of Rebecca. But that's not very likely, I don't think. Um, so having seen that Rebecca, and then also, yeah, no, Nami should have been swung into hogback to take more bodies off. This is why I love recording this and going through this. Actually, I think the video is about to end in just a second here, if I recall correctly. And I can kind of give you a middling run of what happens if I can kind of cycle back through. He picks up a 2K off his Rebecca. He has 4 life still. Okay, so yeah. Double check what my hand was. I had the Rayleigh on board, the dragon, and I didn't have a Robin. I think he did get to block with the Rebecca. So this next turn, I end up playing out the dragon and pressuring him just with some swings. I believe I take him down to 2 life. Then the following turn, he's now on 10 down. He ends up swinging Hogback into me for 6, Perona into me for 6. Um, with one of those, I think I top decked slow beam sword or it came out of my life at some point because when he swings one of those 6Ks at me, I play slow beam sword to rest his gecko. He's like, oh wow, any character is pretty good, which is nice. And then he swings at me with gecko, I think. And then with his last 4 dongs, that's one on hogback, one on Perona, one on gecko, plus activate leader effect is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He ends up playing a Borsellino with his last. Maybe he swung 7K into me when I played the beam sword. I think that was it. He swung 7 into me with the beam sword, and I at that point rest the gecko and get out of the 7K swing. Then he swings 6 with gecko, and then plays a Borsellino, basically saying, "If you got gear 5, I probably lose anyways." I don't have gear 5. I then am trying to kind of go through how I want to map out these attacks. And I'm thinking I basically have to count on a Janbei win. There's not really a world where he passes back to me and I don't die. Um, and I do swing 1 don on the Rayleigh. He takes that. I'm like, okay, maybe we're in business. Maybe he'll mess up. I swing 10 in with the Dragon with 1 don on it. Because I'm kind of mathing what's the most I can do with a Janbei. He takes that one too, goes down to 0. And at that point, I have my 8 down left and a decision to make. I can, I could play a Sanji blocker if I wanted to play to that line. Or I could Jambe, which is then, the 3rd down expended. and there's 7 down remaining, I could put 6 down and leave open the radical beam that I have in hand, or I can put 7 down on my leader and force him to have it. And I do put all 7 onto my leader. I swing 13k into him. He has something like 4 or 5 2Ks in hand. I mean, I guess I did know he picked up 1 or 2 along the way. But at the end of the day, but he did counter out, what is it, 9K to go up to 14K. And I die on the crackback, even more so because I didn't have the radical beam. But even with the radical beam, he could have chipped away at me and killed me. I'm like 99% sure. If he did numbers effectively, maybe he misplaced slightly. But let's just kind of play it slightly out for my mental, right? Because he does have the Borsellino still at that point. He could go 6, get a counter, 6, get a counter, 6 on brand new, get a counter. If I don't completely brick up, I could hypothetically win out there. But I think I was actually on no life or 1 life after that turn with the Borsellino as well. Because, oh yeah, this card's out of my hand because he had swung at me last turn. And I think I was even more bricked up at this point because he swung the 4 times at me, or 3 times at me the previous turn. So yeah, Gecko's are definitely a grindy one, and if they see all their pieces, especially being able to rip our hand with Perona, it's pretty tough. And we even mathed it out too. If I had Gear 5, he still had enough counter in hand to protect and crack back, which is impressive. Good games. Into round 3, or round 4, sorry, it's a 2-1. Basically playing for some prizes at this point. So I'm gonna let it cut over, but it's against Zoro. Because I know it's a little bit of an abrupt transition, so I'll timestamp these videos going forward too. And maybe I should have left it as well, but here we go. All right. So this is actually against. He is the guy that I knocked out of league by 1 point last set. So he is on a vendetta against me. No, I'm just kidding. He's actually a OG Zoro player. He actually won the first league at this shop on Zoro in set 2, I think, or set 3 maybe. So yeah, he's been playing this deck for a while. He played Perona last set, but I think he's back to Zoro or Zoro for this set. And he elected to go second, and I kept my first hand. I mean, I'll actually kind of talk about it as we get going here because I kept a hand that was 3 2Ks and a Mr. 2 and a Newgate, which in theory, it's got counters, it's got ramp, it's got a threat. Kind of what we're looking for. Hypothetically in an aggressive matchup, that should be favorable or good. But the reality here is I'm going first, so I don't get a body on board until turn 3. And we talked about this afterwards. He was saying some people don't swing at him turn 1 to prevent him from playing this event that lets him look at the top 5 and play out an animal from them. So maybe if I deny this swing, I don't get punished quite as hard. But I also need to be chipping away at life to some degree. So maybe I do just with his hand not swing and deny that counter. Because this turn he's now swinging 4 swings at me, which is crazy. On turn 2. In this matchup, I basically lost it on mulligans. What you need to be doing is looking for Namis and Zoro Juros. If you're going second, Mr. 2 is acceptable, but you really, really want Nami's, honestly, even more than the ramp almost, because Nami can help you check this board decently efficient and get you a counter or get you that Zoro Juro or get you your finisher. So I honestly, I want to see like 2 Namis and a Zoro Juro in hand against this matchup. Then yeah, he even plays the Makino, which I don't think all zeros are on, but he literally swung at me for 4 6Ks on turn 2. That's absurd.
It's actually a pretty tough decision. This would feed this.
And if I had a Nami, right, I can say, okay, Nami into Makino. Okay, I could play Zoro Juro into Hiking Bear, Leader into Chopper, right? And now he's got maybe one body left, and we're actually back online. But I just lost this game on mulligans, which, you live and learn, right? But I didn't really think about how aggressive. Like, I mean, I know it's an aggressive matchup, but I was like, oh, I got counter, right? But no, when there's that many bodies turn two, or if I'm gonna take a line that doesn't develop those early bodies, or maybe I mulliganed into this hand, right? If I mulliganed into this hand, then at that point I just kind of have to say we're gonna not swing turn two and not give you the additional 2-for-1 potential. Um,
Hold on, 26.
I think I don't know. Just looking at last night, I definitely should have just mulliganed it and moved on. But he even plays a second Maki now after I removed that thing too. So annoying. And now I'm getting online. I'm getting to my new gates. I'm getting to my kids. Like in theory, I should be getting where I want to go. Um,
Copy the choppers. Yeah, AK leader.
and yeah, it's just kind of too little, too late on the board patrol. I'm at 8K, but I have no counters in hand.
Three. You're AK.
So now, after he absolutely raffle stomps me in this game, we're probably not going to see each other at all next league. We were joking about that too. Yeah.
Doesn't do it.
But yeah, 2-2 for the O8 games. Luckily, it's not a league night, so that's not going to be my first league score. We'll see next week if we do better than that. Or now that I said that, I'll go 1-3 and be mad that it wasn't the first league night. Actually, it'll probably be 5 rounds next week. But yeah, some great gameplay. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe. 500 subscribers by the end of the year is the goal. And Dave's Pirates will be getting launched this week as well. So talk to y'all soon.